All right, so today we'll be looking at functional components. So last week we did class components. So who went ahead to do some extra studying to understand class components better? Acknowledge in the text box. Tell us what you discovered that we did not handle in class and how it can help or how it has helped you. Let's be fast so that we don't take much of our learning time. Abubakar, you can unmute and speak. What did you do? What did you learn? Unmute your mic. Let's hear from you.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Yeah. Good morning.
Well, I did try to work with the class components,
Okay.
but I had some issues because honestly, I can say it's time consuming compared to the functional components.
Okay.
So what I tried to use was the example using the life cycle methods of components, component did mount and component did update. Yes, so I checked out how they worked, and I pretty much just replicated what you did in the class.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice. Well done. Well
Thank you.
done. Let's hear from Udo. Good morning. How are you? Let's hear from Lois. Lois, what did you do? Did you learn something new after the class on your own? You can unmute and speak.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Actually, I tried to read up about
Okay.
these components
Okay.
and how it
Last
works.
component.
So I
Okay.
read up on my own, but actually I didn't do the practice because of light issue. But I
Okay.
read it further.
Okay. All right. All right. That's fine. Okay. It's good that you read it. Try, hopefully, I understand the light situation. I actually don't have light right now. So I understand the light situation, but we are facing the challenges and we are going to overcome. Josephine, let's hear from you briefly too. What did you do? Did you do some extra reading? Where is Faith? Is Faith in this class? Okay, Josephine, go ahead.
Okay, I was not able to read more. I didn't read more on it.
And you did?
No, I practiced the one we did the last time, but I've not read more on it. I won't lie, not.
All right, okay. So you have to practice.
Yes, I have to. Yes, practice. Yes. Thank you,
It's
sir.
only by practice that you become good at what you're learning, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
yeah, you have to practice. So today we'll be talking about functional components. Let's dive right into it. Okay, so acknowledge if you can hear me so that I'm sure we are together. Text box, quickly. Quickly. Can you hear me? All right, good. Okay, so functional components. In React, there are two ways, like we said last week, last class, right? There are two ways to define components, right? Or to create components. There is a class component and there is a functional component, right? So today we are going to be looking at the functional components. So basically, functional components are easier to work with. Functional components are easier and simpler to write because they are plain JavaScript functions without the extra baggage of classes, right? So like, for class components, we are working with classes and all the properties that accompany the component classes, right? But for functional components, they are just direct plain JavaScript functions. So they don't even have all the baggage that comes with classes, right? Okay, yeah. So for functional components, functional components had limitations. Yeah, so they had the limitations of how to manage states or the life cycle. Yeah, but in the new release, in the release of version 16 of React, there were some updates that brought hooks, right? React developed hooks. These hooks now were able to mediate or solve that problem of handling states or managing state and managing life cycle of React applications. So because of that feature, the hooks now that were introduced, functional components are now like the most used method of creating components, or the most modern day used method of creating components. So let's look at an analogy of React functional components. Imagine you are writing a simple receipt, right? Instead of writing a full story, which is the class component, you just write down the steps, like a recipe, right? You just write down the steps to what you want to achieve. Are you following? Do people understand what I'm saying? Any question? Any question, please? Text box,
Please,
please.
can you recap? Can you recap, please?
Okay, what do you want? Where did you lose me? And please, text box, when I ask like that, just write in the text box. Avoid unmuting until I ask you to. So ask your question in the text box. I'll respond to it. Or just tell me where you got lost. I believe that was Lois. Lois, go ahead and unmute yourself. Let me hear what you are. Let's move on. Where did you lose me?
Sir?
Where did you lose me? Where do you want me to where do you want me to recap from?
No, you were explaining functional components. That was why I was just somehow.
So where did you get, what did you understand, or what do you not understand?
I didn't even understand. Well,
You did not understand what I've been saying since. Okay, so you understand what a class component does now, and
yes, I do. I do.
And you understand the fact that class components have life cycle methods, right? So
Yes.
I was just trying to explain that functional components, when it was first created, had limitations, and the limitations were the fact that we could not manage states or life cycle in functional components until the release of version 16.8, which React added hooks, React hooks. So what React hooks does is React hook is like a solution, a simpler solution for lifecycle methods and state management.
Okay.
Is that better? Is that clear now?
Yes, very clear.
Okay, all right. So why use functional components? Basically, to get clean code, functional components makes your code clean and more concise, right? You avoid the issues with the this keyword, like the whole this dot increment, this dot bind, binding this, you skip all that process because you don't necessarily have to, you don't need to handle that in a functional component. Utilize hooks for state and cycle features, right? So that's the hooks I just spoke about. So let's create something. Let's just create a replica of this counter. Are you guys following me? Any question? Any question? Quickly, text box if there is. Okay, all right, good. So let's create a functional component and call it my component. Let's call it my component. All right, so the first thing we do, like for here, you see that we imported React and then we imported components, right? But in this case now, since we want to manage state, right, because we want to do have a counter that we want to change the state of that counter every time a button is clicked. So we are going to, instead of importing the component, we are going to be importing a hook. So let's say import React. Yeah. And then we say also import use states. I hope that did not confuse anybody. If it did, please speak up. I can explain further. Are we good? Are we okay? All right. Function my component defines a new functional component called my component. So what we'll do now is we're going to define a new functional component. And then we'll say function my component. And then we say, so we open this bracket. So we just created a component, basic functional component. But yes, there's still other things we want to add to make sure that our component is complete. It does exactly what we want it to do, right? So we'll go ahead and initiate. So you understand that in class components, we had to use the constructor, then super, before we could define our initial state, right? So what we are going to do now is we'll use state to add a state functional component to our, so we have const, count, and then set count. So what happens here is this count is the actual state that we are defining, right? And this is a function. This is a function to update the state. Then we are initializing the state to 0. So we have our initial state as 0. So it's just the same, it's the same thing with this. Just like saying count, this is the state, count equals to 0, right? So we are saying, okay, we want to set this state, we want to create this variable and give it a state value, an initial state value. Then we want to be able to use this function to update the state. Are we clear? Are we clear? Please, quickly, let's move on. Yes, okay. So,
Yes.
yeah. Text box, please. Who is that? Okay. So, Udo, you don't understand what I just explained, right? So just unmute yourself and then tell me where you are lost. Your voice is cracking, so I don't know, maybe your network. Okay, don't worry. Yeah, you can mute. Your voice is cracking. You can mute yourself. I'll just go over it again. So this here, let me explain this again for you. So we are returning an array, right, of 2 elements. How can I set up this extension that you are using, sir? Tab 9. Just message me on Discord. I'll give you the extension name. The extension is tab 9 actually, so you can just install it. But I can give you instructions on how to do that. But for now, let's just focus on the class. So we have count. We are returning an array, right, of the current value. This count is the current value. Do you understand? And then this is a function. This is a function to update this value. So anywhere we use this function, right, we use set count. Any updates or any action we want to take during this set count, we'll be updating this. We'll be updating this value. Let us just do it practically so you understand better. So let's assume we want to do a set. We want to do an increment, right? So we say const increment count, right? Arrow function. Yeah. Then we now say we want to set count. And then this setting of count, what we want to happen is we want the count to increment by 1 every time the button is clicked. I think by now, and from what I just did now, you should understand what's happening already. Yeah, exactly. So it's more like the variable name. This count now is like the initial is a value, right? And it's the initial value. Good. So we are going to be incrementing this count by adding 1 to the initial value of count. And now what we do is after adding this one, if we don't set it, if we don't use this function to set this state, to update this state, we will not be able to make any incrementation on this particular value. Are you following? So from this, you should understand what is happening here. We are setting this state. So what we're doing here is we're doing set states. Okay. Yes, good. So we're doing this dot set state, right? So when it comes to state management, there's always an initial state, and then there is a function to update the state. Are we together? Are we together? Quickly. All right. Okay. All right. So we can now go ahead and handle our return statement. So we'll say return, and then we want to have, let's use H1. Okay, good. So if you don't, let me explain what's happening here. So what's happening here is we are returning now. We want to now display to our DOM, because when you return, this is like saying display this to the DOM. So what we are going to be returning on the DOM is the count, which is the initial state, and then we want to use an on-click event. So we want to use an on-click event to trigger this increment count. So every time that we click on this button, right, it should trigger this increment count. And then once it triggers this increment count, it should add 1 to the initial state. And it should continue like that for as many times as we want to add numbers. Is the set state an important keyword or just a variable name? Yes, so the set state is actually like a follow com or React, right? So it's a standard. So it's not like it's just the set. The set here is not just because you can use set anything, right? But when using this use state, there has to be a set. So let's assume that let's call this cars. So let's say this is a list of cars, right? So let's say this is a list of cars, right? Yeah, so let's say this is a list of cars, right? And we want to increment, we want to update this state. We are going to say set cars. Do you understand? This is the same function, is also a function that we are supposed to use to update this array. But let's use count. All right. So there's no need for add event listener again because you're already using an on-click event here, right? And you just call your function directly in an on-click event, and anytime you click this button, it should trigger this. Okay, so we'll now export that component, right? Are we together? Are we together? All right, good. So if we pick this component that we're exporting now, and we come to, okay, so that's my component here. So this is my component. All right. So let's import this my component now from here. So if we save this, we should be able to have just like we did when we did the class component. You see that we have the same thing. If we click on it, it increments. Are we together? Are you following? Are you guys following, please, quickly? All right, okay. So we have our, yes, okay. So we have our components. This is a very simple functional component. So let's see how we can incorporate a little bit of life cycle handling, right, into, yeah, so this is just a way of writing a function to increment 1. Yes, exactly. It's a very easy, simple way. You see that there's no much jargons. You're just initializing your states using the use state hook, and then you create your function for handling the increment count, and then you utilize it in an on-click event, and everything is good. Let's say we want to also have like we did for class. Let's do it too for here for functional. We want to have reduce count, right? And then we create a new button and give it a reduce count. So if we come here, we should have reduced. So we have increment, reduce. So if you come here, you have reduce, you have increment. So if you reduce, it's going low. Your increment is increasing. Okay, so I saw a question. Is it the functional complement is sweeter? So that's the hook. That's the hook we are using to work, right? This use state now is the one handling all the states for us. Sure, you get now. This use state is like a store where we are keeping our states. And then this 0 here is our initial state. So we are giving it an initial state. Let's assume that it's an array. We can give it an initial state of empty array, right? So if it's an, we can give it an initial state of empty array. If it's an object, we can do the same, give it an initial state of empty object, right? Same with a string, we can do same with string. So maybe it's a string, we can give it an initial state of empty string. But since it's a number, we're working with numbers, so we give it an initial state of 0 because we want to start from 0. If we give it an initial state of 8, and we come to, we are going to have on first display, we are going to have 8 here. Then we can increment on that 8 and we can reduce on that 8, from that 8. Do you understand? Josephine, that's for you. Do you understand? All right, okay. So our initial can be 1 or any other number. Yeah, sure, of course. That's why I just displayed now for you. So the initial state can be any number. It's just that when you are talking about initial, you cannot have 8 when you are trying to iterate through numbers and you want to create a counter. Are you going to be, will you start counting from 8? Typically you start counting from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and even if you are going down, it's going to be 0, -1, -2, -3, minus, right? So basically that's why the initial state is always like the lowest figure, right? So let's say 0. Let's say for an array now, you won't want to have an initial state. Well, in some cases, when you are trying to handle some kind of logic, you can have initial states. You can have an array of an array, right? You can have an array of items and you have like 1 or 2 or 3 items in the array as the initial state. So if you're updating that state now, then you will be updating the array. So anything you add to that array anything you are adding will add now to the array that you have already created. Let's move on and see how we can. Are we together? Please, quickly. All right. Okay, so let's see life cycle. So for life cycle works the same way. Just like handling state works the same way, right? Life cycle also happens and occurs the same way, but it only uses hooks. For functional component, we are only going to be using hooks to handle life cycle, right? So let's use the same component to handle life cycle, right? So let's say we want to console log when a component has mounted, right? And then we want to also show when the component has unmounted, and then we want a scenario where we can clear our interval, right? So we are going to use set interval to handle this so that we have like iteration, continuous addition, and then we can break that cycle, right? So let's remove this. Let's remove this. Okay, so let's say we want to use effects. Yeah. So we want to use effect, right? to handle our state. So this is a typical syntax for use effects. Okay, so instead of deleting it, let me, okay, you want me to comment it out instead of deleting. All right, let me do that for you. All right, so use effects, right? So this is the basic syntax for use effects. All right. So now we can handle all our business inside here. This is a dependency array, right? So when you put something in when you put a particular value in the dependency array, you are trying to say, okay, I want this use effect to run when there is a difference in this data that I'm adding here. It does. It does. You see that it has been imported here already. So when yeah, so it's imported just the same way we imported use state. It has been imported. So let's go ahead and console log components did mount. Okay. So what we're saying is at initial render, we want to mount the component. So once the component mounts, we should get this console printed to our console, right? Then we can now say const timer. So you notice that when we're doing this timer in our modules, we did not do const. All we did was this does timer, right? But now we are actually defining a variable timer, and then we want to now handle business. So we say set interval. Okay. So set interval. We now say set count, which is that very function, this function here. So we use that function to set count, and we say previous count and previous count plus 1. Please, I hope you guys are following. Then I want to do it one second. Okay, so with this, we now want to return clear. I won't be clearing yet. So what I want to return is another console log that says console.log that says component wheel on mount. Okay, so when the component on mounts, I want to clear interval. I want to clear the timer. All right. So for this now, we are leaving our dependency array empty, right? So if we come to the console, yeah, so we still need to okay, so we are going to comment this out. All right, so let's check it again. We should not have errors. System. System. Okay, all right. So yeah, so you see what's happening. Component did mount, component will unmount, component did mount, component will unmount, right? Are you following? You guys are lost. Okay, all right. So one person should speak. Uchenna. Uchenna, tell me where you are lost. Let me see what. Can you
Okay,
hear?
I'm hearing you
Go on.
from this cost timer downward. I think I'm not clear on on anything there.
The timer. But you understood what
From
we
the,
did. Did you understand what we did here when we were setting timer here?
yeah, I understood what you guys did there.
You understood. So we are just doing the same thing. But in this case now, we are just using simple arrow functions to handle the same timer, right?
Okay,
Do you understand? So we are just saying
okay,
timer, let's set interval, right? Set interval will accept all this as one argument and then accept this as the second argument, right? So this is what we want to do when it is 1 second. So once it's 1 second, we want to increment the previous count. And then we want to set it to this set count. So we want to update this state. So from 0, we want to update it, give it another 1, give it 1. And then we want that to be continuous. Are you following? Then when the component will amount happens, we should clear the time interval. So this time now should not run like 1, 2, 3. So once this time runs and it makes the addition, it should begin again to count that 1 second, that 1 second, right? So once it
yes.
begins again to count that 1 second, it should increment again once it is 1 second. Are you following?
Okay, I get you.
Let's say we make it 2 seconds now. You see that it will be a little bit slower, right? Than it was before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what happens there is it is clearing, it will clear the timer, and then rerun the code again. Are you with me?
I'm okay. Yeah,
So,
I'm
so,
with you. I'm
now-
with you.
so what just happened inside this one use effect is what we did from here, is what we're handling from here all the way down.
Okay,
Together. So we're
I get
mounting,
you.
updating, then unmounting, right?
Yes.
But in this scenario now, this use effect hook handles
Yeah.
all the side effects that are supposed to happen. So every side effect that we have defined in this function now, this use effect is going to continuously run it for us. As far as we don't have a dependency array. So now if I decide that, okay, I want to have a dependency array, right? I can define a dependency array to make sure that, okay, this whole side effect should happen only when that dependency or the value in the dependency changes. Are you with me? you
I'm with
understand
you. I'm
now?
with you. I'm hearing you. I understand you. Thanks. I
So,
understand you.
any other person having issues understanding this? Yeah, Udo, I think I just explained it now. Abubakar, you too. You guys should update. Do you guys understand now? Abubakar, I think E-Tech too. E-Tech, do you understand now? And Udo, Udo, do you understand? Please text box just quickly so that we can move on. Udo, you don't still understand. Okay, I will take it again. Hold on. Let me erase what our artist has drawn again. Okay. Yes, this is the what I showed you initially is the basic syntax for use effect. So this is the basic syntax for use effect. So you can write all your side effects, all the side effects you want to happen within this syntax. So everything inside here is not standard. I can structure this code anyhow I want to do it, right? I can even decide not to have a return statement within this. I'm having a return statement here because I actually want to return another console and I want to also clear timer, right? E-Tech, that's for you. So who did not understand again, please explain the clear interval. Okay, all right, so what we are doing with this clear interval, we are using clear interval. Clear interval accepts one argument, right? Which is the timer that we want to clear. So this whole thing here is a timer that we set. And the timer has instructions. The instruction is increment our count, increment the state, and then set it to the count here. So update this count, give it a new number, which is this number plus 1. And then we should do this every 1 second. Now, clearing the timer means that we are saying, okay, when we initially do this timer and we add 1, we want to clear this timer and do it and then do it again, right? So we are saying every one second, we want to rerun this thing every 1 second. So just rerun it every 1 second for us, and then we are clearing the timer. So we are clearing the timer because we want it to go back and run that 1 second again. So we clear the timer, we go back, run 1 second again. We clear the timer, go back, run 1 second again. Do you understand? Okay, though, what's the difference between set interval and set timeout? Yeah, I think they work the same way, but do that as a research. Do you hear me? Good. Set timeout is actually exactly what it means. The name is exactly what it is. You are setting a timeout. So you are saying that if particular time, if it gets to a particular time, we want to remove something, right? It's just like having a login feature. So where I use set timeout mostly is in like my Ansios file. We'll talk about that in a future class, right? So what I use set timeout for is I use it to log people out when they are dormant on the system. So there are some systems where you are logged in and you are not using anything for a while, then it automatically logs you out, right? So those are the kind of things we use set timeout for. Set interval, on the other hand, is set. So if you don't clear the timer, will it not work? It should still work. So set interval, on the other hand, right? We are saying that at so and so time, do so and so thing. then do it again, right? So we want to have different intervals, just like the name implies. We want to have intervals of a particular action. Yes, exactly. E-tech or loader, yeah, exactly. Matthew, where are you lost? Or mute yourself, please, so that we can be fast.
From
Hmm?
from the beginning, I don't really understand the beginning.
You don't understand from the beginning.
It's a bit confused.
Did you just come? Hey, my guy, did you just come? Let me know. So
No,
that you
I've
have
been
been
watching.
here. Thank God you're laughing. Don't laugh. Oh. Okay, all right, okay. That's fine, it's okay. Set timer schedules a single execution. Okay, all right, so let me start from the beginning for the benefit of those that did
Please,
not.
I'll be raising
Lois, Lois, let me hear from you. Go ahead.
in the mount. It's just a string that the console will print before the timer takes off.
Yes, exactly. It's just
Like
for
to
us.
signal the end of it.
Yes, exactly. It's just for us to
Oh,
see it on the console. Yeah. So you can see it here, component will unmount, right? So we get this before it clears the timer. So let us uncomment the timer. So you see that it still works. So do you know why this use effect is continuous like this? It's because we don't have a dependency array, so it is going to render continuously and continuously for as many seconds as we have in this lifetime. This thing will keep running and incrementing. So if we do this, we start again. Okay. So let's do something else quickly. Let's look at another case. Let's update, right? So, okay, we'll still use this function. So let's say use effects. Yeah. So we want to do an update, right? So we say what we want to see first. We want to update discount. So we are saying component did update, right? Then we want to also say console.log count updated. Count updated. And say count. All right. Good. Then we want to return another arrow function. And then console not log. You know, before next update. Then we now add, yes, we now add the dependency array count. Okay, so now what happens here? Let's just view the console. So you see that it is showing us every time that it updates, right? Let us pause this update. All right, so I want to explain something here using the console. So, are you guys following me? Don't worry, it's fine. I'll come back to that. I'll explain it. Are you following? Please comment, please, quickly.
Yes.
Okay, so what we are doing, we mount the component first, right? Then component now updates. As soon as the component updates, we display the new number that the component has updated. Counter updated 35, right? Then we now say component will unmount, right? Then we now say clean up before the next update. Then we now mount again. Are you following? Then the circle continues. So you see that we are doing everything that we're doing in class component. We are doing it here using just the use effect. Are we okay? Do we understand? All right, okay. Okay. So yeah, if you guys understand that, that means people can comfortably create a component, a functional component, and handle the life cycle and also handle the states. Am I correct? Am I correct? Let's be fast, please. I need feedback. When I talk, I need feedback. Am I okay? Good. Henry. Okay. Kinda. Okay, Sheon, I'm not comfortable with kinda. So let's hear from you. Unmute yourself. Let's hear where you are having issues.
Okay, so first off, I came late for the class. I came a few minutes late. So what I meant by that was I have to probably go and watch the video from the start after the class, and then I'll be good.
Okay, okay, all right, okay, okay, okay. Let's work with that. So, Iyanu, you understand what is happening. So, explain to us what happens in this line. Iyanu,
Hello.
unmute yourself.
Yes, we set a count
Okay.
at the count. Then we use this set count to change the next value of this count, and the use state we start from 0.
Okay.
So
So what are the use states?
there
What is the use state?
the use state here is 0, which is the count here.
So like what do we call the use state there? What is it called in React?
Sorry, that I don't know that.
The hook. It's a React hook. It's okay.
I don't seem to be able to get your current location.
It's a React hook. So do you understand now? Are you with me? At least you understand what we are actually doing with this line of code, but you need to stick it in your head that these are called hooks, React hooks. Henry, help us understand what's happening in this code. Yeah, shown. Okay. Holds the default state. Yes. More like the default value. All right. Okay. Nice. Henry, unmute yourself.
Okay, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, you can.
Okay. This where we have console.log components did mount. At that point, it's going to print on the console that it's going to print this statement on the console. Then the
So
next line we are
why is it printing that why is it printing that console log?
so what do you say?
Why is it printing that console.log? The
Okay,
component
sorry, what do you say?
why is it printing console.log component did mount? Why is it printing? Why are we printing it there?
Yeah,
Why?
because of
Yeah.
okay, why we are printing that console.log,
Yes.
that console.log, right? Yeah,
Yes.
at that point, please just go up a little.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, we've already set our set
Mm-hmm.
count and all this. So we are printing this console.log to tell you that okay, we are about to mount this thing. We are about to start the life cycle.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's when please, I'm already recording this class. I don't know who is requesting to record the class.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, continue, Henry. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So we are
Then
we are,
we
using
declared
that.
the timer. For this one, we declared the timer.
Okay.
Yeah. After declaring the timer, then we set an interval, telling you that you should use this set count because initially we've declared count already. So you're saying you should use set count, which is 0. Then you should
Okay.
add +1 to that 0. After adding +1 to the 0, then it should for it to update again. It will update after 1 second. Then after updating 1 second, it should go back to this set count. Now set count should be 1 as at that time. Then you should take that one. You should add 1 to it again. Update it again. Then after 1 second, you should be doing that after 1 second. Then it should okay. Then it should return to the console that after when it's done with one, it
Yes,
will give
Josephine,
us
you want me
component
to
will
answer?
unmount. Then it will come back again and repeat these things as if we are in a loop. It's in an infinite loop because we did not
Okay.
tell it when to stop or not.
Yes, okay. All right. Josephine, you want to have a go, right? Have a go at this function. And then let me respond to Udo first. So Udo, use effect is a hook, just like use states, right? So use states is managing the state, is holding your initial values and holding your updated values, right? So for use effect is what handles the side effects, the things that are happening, occurrences. So it just continues, it runs your code based on the side effect that you've defined for it to run. Do you understand? So it's like, okay, I have use effect and I want to console.log this, then do this, then do this. If I don't stop it at some point, use effect will continuously run that cycle for you. So use effect here is like handling everything. Component did mount, should component update, component will unmount. All these methods, right, are being run by one use effect. So instead of writing out all those life cycle process, right, or procedures, use effect just handles everything for you. Mounts your components, handles the updating, and then handles the unmounting based on the instructions you have given to it in the function. Yes, that's why they are called life cycle, of course. Yeah. So yeah, Josephine, you can go ahead. Let's hear from you. Tell us from line 24 to 31.
Thank
Yes.
you, sir. So I just want to go so that let me know if I understand what you have said.
That's
like
fine.
that
Go ahead.
immediately you click, you know, all these things is just telling us what happens immediately the button is clicked. So
Mhm.
immediately the button is clicked, the first user state that would let me know that this button has been clicked is when it console logs component has been mounted. Right? Can you move? Let me just see the console logs. Okay. Okay. Then when
Okay,
this,
so there's no button. So let me
no, I've
just.
seen it.
Okay. So there's
Okay.
no
So
button. We are using like a timer to handle our updating.
okay, there's no button because I was seeing there's one button before. That's what I
Yes,
was trying to.
yes, that was when we were just handling increment count
The
and reduce.
increment zone. Okay.
Yes. So for now, we are using intervals we're using set interval to handle that continuous process of adding and.
Okay. Okay. Okay, sir. I get you. Thank you. I'm coming.
Okay.
Okay.
So are we waiting for you?
No,
Or we
sir.
should
I'm at
continue?
work. Just continue. I'll go through the video again.
Okay, all right. Yanu, Oyana, let's hear from you.
Yes, we set our usage, which is our hook, that once the program runs, it should tell them that the component did be mount. Then after the console log dot counter update, that you should tell them that console counter has been updated, which is the count. Can you scroll down, please?
Yeah.
So then after that, it should return, which is it should clear the interval again. So it should start from the beginning again. So let's say we're asking it to go to 1, then clear, go back to 0, then go back to 1, clear, go back to 0, then go back to 1.
Okay, so actually we are not going back to 0, right? We are going to be incrementing on the previous value. So we have a previous count, right? So let's assume that we have added 1 to 0. So that means we have a previous count. We have a count that we've made already, which is 1 now. So when we clear the timer and we want to run again, we are picking that 1 and now incrementing on that 1.
That 1.
Yes. Then the cycle continues. We increment again to 3 and to 4 and to 5.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, so I believe that everybody understands what we are doing here. Is there any other person that has any blocker? Lois, let's hear from you. Yeah, Lois, you can speak.
Please, I want to ask, this print count is a parameter for set counts.
Sorry, you say this what?
The print count is the parameter for set counts.
On which line, please? I'm not getting you clearly. This one,
this, now, under this use effect,
okay, this
you
previous
wrote
count, right?
interval set, yeah.
Yes, of course. That's what I say. So that's what I just explained to him now, to Ianu now. I explained to him that when this set count is happening, we have a previous count, right? The previous count initially is 0. So what we are saying is for every time that we increment, right, we want to have a new previous count, then we want to iterate and then add to that previous count. Do you get?
Yes.
Are you following? So this set count is accepting this and this. So we are giving it this whole stuff is like for set interval. So this set interval accepts this argument, right? Or this function that we wrote here, and then also accepts a timer. Do you get? So after doing all this, after saying, okay, add 1 to every previous count that we have, we want to add 1 every 1 second. So when we do this now and we add, the next 1 second, it should add to the previous count. So the previous count cannot be 0 again. The previous count will be 1 because we have already added to it. So what we are holding in this count state now is no more this 0. After the first addition, is no more this 0. So after that first addition, if we're adding again, we're adding 1 to the new value of count, which of course is now 1. So if we add now, we should have 2. So this count value now becomes 2, regardless of what is here, right? This was just how we started life. It's just like starting life, and then you're saying at 365 days after birth, this person should add 1 year to their age. Now the function will continue and say after another 365 years, this person should add another 1 year, not to the initial years, right? You should add another 1 year to the new age that he got in the last 365 days. Are you following? Where are you? Why are you muted? I'm trying to. Lois, can you hear me?
I didn't know I was muted.
Okay, so do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Good. So based on that, now it will continue like that. So every 365 days, 1 age will be added every 365 days. So for us now, we are not using that long. We are using 1 second. So we are saying every 1 second, we want to add 1. Right? So every 1 second, every 1 second, we're adding 1 to the previous count. Are we good? Hello, everyone. Are we good? Okay, thank God. Got it. Good. Who else? Okay. Okay, all right. Anybody has issues, please speak now or forever hold your peace. What about the second parameter count? That is for this, right? So what we are using this to do now, where is it? Abubakar. Okay, so this is like dependency array. I said something about it. So this dependency array, what this does is when you are running a side effect, right? This side effect should not run except there is a change in this dependency array, in this dependency. So if this count does not have any change, this use effect will not run. Do you understand? So why it is still running is because this count, this timer is actually working. And as far as this timer is working, this one will work because this count is being updated. Good. So you understand now. Exactly. So that's how the dependency array works. So most time we use this dependency array for doing API calls, right? You understand? So when we do an API call, we won't render the component. We won't render the component except there is a change. So you know, asynchronous calls from the backend, those calls are like just waiting. They are like making those calls and waiting. It's like promise. So the backend has promised them. So they always asking the backend for this data. Okay, is the data available now? Do you have an update for me, right? So when there's no update, this use effect will not run that API call, and it will not update the value, right? And it will not, at the same time, it will not display, it will not make any changes to your DOM. So let's say you have a table and you have four documents in the 4 rows of data in the table, right? This use effect will not increase the number of data on that table, or it will not re-render that table. It will keep that table the way it is until this dependency, right? Which is the data coming from the backend. If that data does not change, so if there's no new input or new value added to that table content or that table data, that table will not re-render. But as soon as there is a new feature or a new row added to that table, this use effect will run. And once it runs, it will re-render that table. Is it clear? All right. Okay. You're welcome. Okay, so let's just let's move to let's do something. Let's do props. Now, this class was quite fast, so let's just utilize the time that we have to do props so that maybe from our next class we can actually start building some UI. How many of you know how to use Tailwind CSS? Just indicate by raising your hand. Okay. So to Enoch. Okay, Abubakar. You basics though. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Let's look at props. We'll be using Tailwind. Don't worry, we'll still have a session to look at Tailwind so that everybody can go along and flow along with me. Let's look at Nino Bootstrap. That's fine. They both work, they are both utility classes, so it's about the same thing, even though Tailwind is just a little bit more customizable, right? Yeah, we will. Henry, we'll have that session. Okay, so let's move to props, right? Who understands what props are? Just raise your hand. I want the person to actually speak. Okay, Adaobi, go ahead.
Okay. I actually understand props as properties that you can pass through a component. Like it's more like a property that you can
Okay.
pass through.
Okay. So are you passing through the component or passing the component through something?
Okay, maybe I'll just give an example.
Okay.
Okay, let me assume that I have a component. The
Yes.
component is rendering a button, but I want the button to have different text. I don't want the same text on the button. So I can just put the button on a different file. Then I will import it to where I want to use it.
Okay.
Then if I want to pass the property, I can just change the text. I can
Okay.
change the text, yes, by passing props to the file that I created. Then,
Okay.
yes, I don't know if I'm making sense. I'm not
Yeah.
making sense at all.
Yeah, you
Yes,
are, but
something like
it's too practical and then we cannot do
yes, for me
it.
to start
Yes, and we
describing.
cannot visualize. So yeah,
Yes.
let's just move on. But good one. Thank you. Any other person wants to go give it a try before we continue? Any other person? Okay, yeah, no one. Let's go. So basically props are like, okay, Donatus, yeah, let me hear from you. Please, you guys should feel free to speak in this class. Like, I want us to have like an interactive kind of class. Donatus, why did you not disappear?
Someone has something in the comment section.
Okay. Okay, that's like the person is helping out now. Props arguments passed into React components. Okay. So you wanted to point that out to me, or you had your own to say? Okay, Udo, let's hear from you.
Okay, please, can you hear me now?
Yes, clearly.
Okay. Props are actually properties and they are used to pass data from one component to another.
Okay,
That's the
all
way I
right.
understand it.
Yes, okay. All right, let's go ahead. You guys have great answers. Yeah. So yeah, props are like short form for properties, yeah? And they are like, they are used to pass data basically from one component to another, typically from a parent component to a child component, right? So props are read-only and cannot be modified. Please take note of that. Props cannot be modified when it's passed from parent to child component. Okay, Donatus, I see your response. Well done. That's actually spot on. Yes. So yeah, they basically pass from parents to child components. So so I was saying they are read only. Yeah, you cannot change, unlike states that we can update a state of a particular variable, right? You cannot update a prop or mutate a prop. Do you understand? Okay, good. So functional components receive props as parameter, and you can access the props directly within the function. So let's just let's look at an example using the same component that we just built, right? So let's assume that we want to add like a dynamic title to this component. Let's say we want to say we want to give it a H1, right? And then call it title. Right? So we now give it this H1 and call it title. So what as it is right now, basically this will not display anything because we did not even define this thing anywhere here in our code. So it's like we are just it's not going to display, it's actually going to throw an error. So you see the error. Title is not defined, right? So normally, maybe we would have defined this title up here and would have said const title equals to component example, right? Then if we come here, we should see that title as component example. Are you following? Okay, Omotayo. So all we did here is introduce a H1 tag and then pass the title. If you remember, I said something like now we can access the props directly within the function, right? So we have this now, we're assuming that this is what we want to use as props, right? But right now we are not using it as props. We're actually defining the title here, the title variable, and giving it this as a title. So you see that when we pass this title inside H1 tag in curly braces, right? It will display that title as what we gave it here. So now, if we now decide that, okay, we want a scenario where we want to be able to use this my component in different places and give it different titles. We can now say, okay, let's pass this very title, right? So we now destructure it from here and we say, let me change this to a functional. Let me change it to an arrow function. Okay.
Okay. I think you have to change that function to const.
Yeah. My bad. Who is that? Who spoke?
Yeah.
Shaun. Yeah, well done. You're very attentive. All right, thank you. So yeah, so we changed this to a functional component. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the props here, right? So now we cannot have that error message again. We cannot have that error message again here. The error message that was saying title is not defined. The fact that we have now defined title here as the props, you see that it's called parameter, right? We have defined it as the props. It's not going to display anything. Who knows why it's not displaying anything? Yeah, who knows why it's not displaying anything? Yes, because we haven't given this title any value. So now let's come to where we are using this my component now. So if we come here and we say title, right? And then we give it that component example. Let's call it prop example, right? So if we do this now, then this title is the prop that we are working with, right? From here, this is the title, and we are displaying it in our H1 tag, right? So if we come to where we are using the my component now, and we now add this prop here and give it a value, it will display to the DOM. Is anybody confused? Yeah, please go speak. Let's hear. Is anybody confused? Okay, I should take it again. Okay. Henry, where did you understand? Where did you get lost? Unmute yourself.
Sorry, from the destructuring you did, I was distracted, so that's why I didn't get that.
So we're talking about from here, right?
Yes.
So this is how we pass props, right?
Okay.
So you are destructuring these props now from the parent component. This is the parent. This is the one that is displaying the my component that we built, right? And then we want to now pass this title from my component, from app.js. We want to now add this title here so that it will now display in our H1 here. Are you following, Henry? Please unmute yourself.
Yes.
Good. So now when we do this now, and we pass this and we give the title a value of prop example. Okay. Yes. Yeah, but just stick to the basics. We get to other things later. Donatus.
Okay, sorry. I want to quickly ask a question. The other time before we destructured, we used the normal method and it still gave us our desired output. So what I'm asking, what's the difference between that other one and this? Do this destruction does it allow us maybe have different title, assign different values
Yes.
to the title or what?
Yes, exactly. So you can assign any value to this title now and it will display to the DOM, right? And then let's assume that we want to also display, let's change. Let me change the name of this component, right? So let's assume that we want to use this same my component inside. But first, let us import this here. So okay, so let's use this. Let's say we want to also display this other component, right? my component one, but we don't have any props in my component one. So this, my component one now, is a different component of its own, the one we handled where we did, where we took care of this, right? Okay,
Yes.
let's use a functional component to avoid confusing you. Right. So let's do another component and call it test. JSX. And now define this here. So we say okay, so remove this and remove this. What we want to do is display my components. Okay. So I want to display. All right. Okay. So all right. So we have this component text comp, and then we import it here. Right. Okay. So let's see what happens. All right. So for text comp, let us remove. Okay, so good. So we are displaying this my component, right? Inside, we are displaying this component inside this component, right? And then we are displaying this one and this one inside this. Are you confused? Is anybody confused? Can I go on? Okay, good. So now this my component there, this my component that we are displaying first is here with its props example, and this one is my component. So let me see. Yeah, so this one is my component. Let me give this a different so that they can look diff. Yeah, actually, H1. Okay, so this is so that we can differentiate. So you see that text component value count 0. So we have prop example. This one here is what is rendering from my components here. And it has this title props, right? Are you following? It has this title props. Now we are now rendering this text comp inside app.js. And we are also rendering this one inside the text comp. So we want to see this very my component, but we don't want to see it directly. We want to see it inside. We want to see it from text comp perspective. So if we come here now and we remove this value and then apply the same, you see that this is the same my component that has a title prop. If we come here and we say title, right? Excuse me. If we come here and we say title, right? And we add this text component value as the title now. So we are giving this my component a new title when we are using it inside text component. But when we are using it inside app.js, we are giving it a prop example title, right? So now if we go to this place, we are going to see that this prop example title that is coming from the app.js is displayed. right? And then the text component value that is also coming from the text component where we are utilizing, where we are also displaying this my component, right? This one is also displaying. So these two now, this one and this one is the same component. Do you get? But because we're using it in different places now, we can now give it different text title. Do we understand? Yeah, Udo, thank you. Okay, so you guys understand the whole concept of props now. Because even inside this app.js, if we decide to render this component again here under, right? And we decide to say prop example 2, right? It will still display. It will display another one, prop example 2. It's because in the app.js, we are displaying it first, as you can see. Inside app.js, we are displaying the text component first. So it's definitely going to display first on the DOM. If we remove it and put
Please,
it
I
down.
want to ask, where did you, the contents of that text component, where is it?
Lois, is that you? Lois, I don't like the fact that you don't like to listen to instruction. I said, raise your hand when you want to speak. I'll call you. But you just like to unmute your mic. Should I stop everybody should I set it that nobody should be able to unmute their mic? Would you prefer that kind of class? All right, thank you. So please just follow instruction. I know that you are eager. I like the spirit, I like the ginger, but if we don't follow instructions, we can get the class all rowdy. Imagine everybody on this class unmuting and just talking. That's not, everywhere becomes rowdy. And that's not what we want, so that we can maximize every bit of information that is coming out of the class. And then we can show ourselves to be mature and orderly. Okay, yeah, so the content, don't worry, you unmute and speak. So for that person that was asking why this was displaying first, if we put it down, it's going to be the one displaying last. Text component value, right? Okay, so Lois, unmute yourself so that I can understand your question better. Lois, you can unmute yourself. I'm saying now that I want you to unmute, you not unmute. Should I move on? Okay, let me just try to see if I can. Let me just try to see if I can understand. I don't understand her question. That's why I wanted her to speak. So this text component is a new component we created. This is for the benefit of everybody that is confused on how this text component is coming about, right? So this text component is a component we just created. So maybe I should remove all this stuff from this text component so that it will not confuse you. You think it's the same components. All right, good. So this text component, all we are using this text component to do is to display my component, right? So we are displaying my component inside app.js, and we are also displaying my component inside text component. Now, for the fact that we are displaying it here, right? If we display this text component in app.js, the way we have displayed it here, import it and display it, it will display exactly what we have in my component, because that is the only content in text comp, right? So now what I was using this component to do is to show you that we can actually use this my component in different inside other parent components and pass the title as a prop and give it a different title name, right? A different title value, right? Now, if we come to this place, to this my component now, this is where we are actually handling the whole props, right? So this is where the prop is being passed to. So this is like the child. And this now serves as a parent because we are displaying this component here. Just as this component also serves as the parent because we are displaying my component here. And this also serves as a parent to text component. So this my app.js is like the grandfather in this context, in the text component context. It is like the grandfather of my component because now this text component is the child of this app.js. And then if we enter it, we now see that my component is the child of text component. Okay, you understand now. All right, good. So that is what we're trying to do there. As it is now, if we decide that we want to give we don't even need this here because we're not using. So let's assume that we want to give this text component now its own prop. So let's say H1, and we want to give it our new, okay, let's say we want to give it subtitle. Let's put the subtitle under my component. Yeah. Okay. So we want to give you subtitle and we want it to be a prop. All right. So we cannot pick the subtitle and then pass it here. So if we come to our app.js where we are displaying this one and we say subtitle and we give it its own value. This is our subtitle, right? And we go to our browser. So we should have text component value, the count with this now is my component that is rendering inside text component, right? Now this is the prop that we are passing from app.js into the text component. Do you understand? Do you guys understand? Yes, let's have more reactions, Let me be sure that we're good. All right, Henry Shaw. Yeah, wisdom, you're following, okay? Who else? All right, Enoch, okay. Donatus, nice. I'm still, I've not seen Faith in this class today. Have you all heard from Faith? Has anyone heard from Faith? No, okay. So you guys will have to check on Faith to be sure that she's okay, because I know she doesn't miss classes. So check on her, make sure that she's fine, and then somebody should give me feedback on her well-being. Okay, good. So Udo, when she responds, try to let me know why she did not, or just tell her to reach out to me so that I'll know why she did not attend the class and check if she's doing well. All right, Enoch. All right. So yeah, so basically this is what using props looks like. Right, so you see that I have used the props inside each component, and I have tried to even confuse you guys and even confuse myself. But thank God that we are all following and everything is all right. I think for today, this will be all. So let me hear from you guys first before we call it a day. Let's hear what do you understand now about props? And do you see how useful it can be? especially for reusable components. Yeah, Udo, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Coach.
You're
From
welcome.
my understanding from what you explained, we already know that prompts are that their properties. We also know that we use it to share data between components. And from what you have said now, I also understand that you can actually put a prompt in different, even children components. For example, you created a title you created a title prompt in test component, and will I say, can I use the word call? You're also calling it in my component, and
Okay.
then you are also displaying it in app.js, which is what actually displays in the DOM. That's why we're seeing it in the DOM. So you created a prompt in my, please remove your arrow, is blocking my view with
Okay.
what is displaying. All right, thanks. So you created a um you created a prompt. Can you go back to the test component.jsx so I can use that
Good.
to explain? Thank you. Now you created a prompt subtitle in the test com.js. You also went to my component and displayed the text. Okay, no, sorry. You also displayed what you have in my component file in the text component.js. Then please kindly go to my component file. Thank you.
Okay.
Then in my component file, you created a prompt called title. But in that title, in the app.js, that was where you now gave that prompt a parameter, or as you gave, I want to use the
Right.
word parameter, or you gave it an argument or something. That's where you gave it
Valid.
a value. Sorry.
Okay.
That's where you gave it a value. So, and then you also called my component in test.component and gave title another value there. So in essence, prompts is like you already said, is read only. So you just use it and give values for a particular property. You give different values in different components. You use it to give different values in different components. I don't know if I made sense, but that's the way I understood it.
Okay. Okay. All right. We have other people that want to add their mind. So Udo, you can drop your hand. Thank you. Ianu.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes.
Props are like functional arguments, which they are used to pass data from one component to the other, which value can be set from the parented elements and can also, but they are not modifiable.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Any other person wants to give it a try? You can drop your hands, Ian. Thank you. All right. No other person. Anyone wants to give it a try? Okay. Yeah, Abubakar, let's hear from you.
Okay, first from the beginning of the class, I learned how functional components can really, really simplify a developer's life.
Yeah, of course.
Because the life cycle methods we used in the previous class,
Yeah.
the class components, we had to use almost, I think, 4 different components for will mount, did mount, update. But use state just replaced all of that. Yeah, sorry, the use effect replaced all of that with a single declaration. So I really, really love that.
Okay.
And then I also learned about these props. how they can help in, instead of creating multiple lines of code, you can just pass it through one, and for each you can just follow individually and change the data values.
Okay. All right. Okay, nice. Thank you. Omotayo, go ahead. We have a couple of minutes. We have about 10 minutes to spare, so you guys should feel free. Let's hear from you. Let me be sure what's happening. Good afternoon, Omotayo.
Yeah. So I think I just got to understand props properly today anyway.
Okay.
But that of states, I've not really got it, but I think I will go over with the video again.
Which part did you not get? Sorry, I didn't get that.
The states, the one we started
Okay.
with.
State management. Okay. All right.
Yeah, but I think I should be able to. I will go over it again. So,
Okay.
like, when is the Zoom link going to be dropped? Like the recorded class?
Possibly before the end of today or tomorrow.
But I was able to understand props properly. Thank you, sir.
All right, you're welcome. That's all. Anybody? Let me look for one shy person here. Alabi Sunday. I'm not sure I've heard you speak in the class before. Alabi, are you in this class? Or you just joined and went to cook beans? Alabi, are you there? Omota, you can drop your hand. All right. Okay, let's hear from Johnson Francis. Then after Johnson Francis, I want to hear from Lois. Johnson Francis is also not in this class. It's like we have ghost trainees. So. Okay, Lois, let's hear from you. Can anyone hear me? Or am I speaking to myself? Yes, you guys can hear me. So why
Yeah,
are
I can hear you.
Okay. So Lois, why are you muted? Are you angry with me? Yeah? All right. James, let me hear from you. James. Oh, Johnson, you are clapping for me instead of speaking. Johnson, you have to unmute your mic. Unmute your mic. Let's hear you.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, I wanted to raise my hand. I didn't know
Okay.
I clicked
All
on
right.
different
You
direction.
might want to speak
Yeah,
a little bit louder.
yeah, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
I'm
perfect.
audible now.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so basically my understanding on props is it just helps you reuse a component. So that's basically what it does. And you can't change it. So the only thing you can change there is just the value. So yeah, so that's my understanding on props.
Okay. Is there any other thing you understood better, or you understood maybe functional components? Was it clear?
Yeah. I understood the functional components, and the usage of use effect and its
Okay.
dependency too. Yeah,
Okay.
understanding the fact that when a particular component renders, so
Yeah.
the dependency itself depends on the number of times you an effect changes on the component. So that's where it's rendered.
Okay. All right. Let's hear from others. Josephine, have you spoken? Have you said anything? Hello, Josephine. Abi? Can you guys hear me?
Okay, I'm sorry, I cannot talk now. I've not really been following my work. I will go through the video again.
Yeah, you did say so.
Sorry.
You said so. Let's hear from Said. Saad Said. Saad Said. Yeah, I think that's the pronunciation. Did I get it right? Saad Said.
Yes,
I got
yes.
it
Good
right.
afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yes.
So you are good. Did you get anything out of the class?
Not. I'm okay. I'm okay with that.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Then I'll stop recording now.